Today we're going to talk about a very important aspect of Azure Webjobs. As you know, Azure Webjobs is a way you can run a script or a console application or an application in the context of your Azure app service, which means instead of having a whole entire VM or a batch service or any sort of a service to run your scripts, you can run this under your existing app service. So if you have to run a small script or an exe or a shell script, you can straight away run it. But if you have to integrate with other Azure services, it's better to use the WebJob SDK. So today we're going to talk about the WebJob SDK, and the two important aspects is the triggers and bindings. As the name says, triggers is a way you can trigger your job, and then the trigger can pass in different kinds of metadata as well. Based on that, you can make different decisions. If one example is that, for example, if you want to take an action when the file gets copied into a particular blob storage, say an example is you upload an image to your website and you want to resize the images. So you can pretty much have a small job that run under the context of your same app service, and it can resize the images. Or you can have it configured in a way that if a message is placed into a particular queue, it just triggers based on that message. Bindings, on the other side, is the way you can integrate with different services. So there are two primary types of bindings: input binding and output binding. So as the name says, input binding means that you can have the input of this job through any Azure app service. And similarly, the output is where you want to write your or store your output of the web job. What you're seeing in front of you is pretty much the boilerplate code. So I just created a new web job using the web job template in Visual Studio, and it just created this boilerplate code for me. I haven't changed anything in this apart from this queue name. Previously it was just this key, just to show you. So this is pretty much what the boilerplate code is. So we are going to have different kinds of triggers, play around with that, and then different kinds of bindings to show you how you can play around with that and how easy it is to integrate with different services without writing any connectivity or other code. So we'll start off. In the app.config, I've already put the connection strings of my Azure account. So although I'm going to run this app locally, I can just publish it on Azure as well. It will work the same way because this essentially is connecting to my Azure account. I have connection strings here. Without any delay, I'm going to run this and see what happens. While it runs, I want to show you, I have just opened my Azure App Explorer as well, Storage Explorer as well. This is nothing but just nice UI where you can connect to your storage services in Azure. I can go to the portal and do the same things, but this UI gives me a nicer view of doing things. So this is a queue that's already there that I've created before. And this particular storage account, the web storage account 203, this is the one that I've already configured in the connection strings. So the job is now has started. It basically picked up an initial message that I had placed there. So I'm gonna put a breakpoint in the function.cs. So this is where the entry point will come in the process queue message. I'm gonna put a breakpoint in here, and I'm gonna. So what it's doing is basically expecting a message in the queue, and it's just logging that message. So I'm going to Azure App Service, and in this queue, which that's expecting, I'm gonna put a message here. I'm gonna say hello bird. Okay, and we'll wait for the message to be picked up. So you can see the messages here. You can keep on placing as many messages here as you want, and the job will start picking up one by one and start processing it. Because it's a trigger as configured in the code, so it means when we put the message into that queue, this job will be triggered. It's taking some time because it's running locally, and it's going to Azure, and then from there it's coming down here. If I publish it and run it in Azure, it will be very faster. Okay, let's wait for it. Let's go back and see what's happening with the message. I'll refresh it. So it hasn't been picked up yet. Should be picked up soon. Queue, the name is fine. The name is right over here. Okay, you can see the messages here now, and you can see it's executing the, it's saying the reason is that the new message has been detected. So if we go to the message, you can see hello world here, what we put in the queue. And if I go back to the storage and I refresh it, you can see the queue, the message is gone because it has been processed. I'm going to stop it. Okay, so this is just one string. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually put a whole record in here. I'm going to create a new class on top. I'm going to call it record. I'm going to say it's public string name and get set. Last name. This one I'm going to call first name. Okay, sounds good. So instead of the message, I'm going to say it record, and this is the record. And I'm going to change the queue name as well, just to show you how flexible it is. I'm going to call it job queue. Go back to Storage Explorer and create another queue here. Under the queues, I'm going to call it job queue. Now my code is expecting job queue. So what I'm going to do over here is instead of this, I'm going to do this. That it's the record. Let's lock the whole record in here. It's complaining about something. Let's see what it's complaining about. Okay, it's gone. I'm going to run it now. So job has started. I'm going to go back to the storage. In the job queue, I'm going to put a message. Now, because it's a whole class, I'm going to put JSON here. First name. So Webjob SDK for me will automatically deserialize this and put that in the queue. Last name. Tahir. Rauf. All right, let's see what happens. So the message is here. Now you can see the message text. It's the JSON in here. Okay, so you can see the record in here. It came here quickly, and you can see the first name and last name in here. So that's how easy it is to integrate with the queue service. Now, interesting thing that I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how the bindings work. As I told you, there are many bindings and output bindings. I'm going to work with an output binding now, and what I will do is that whatever we send in the message, it gets stored in a file onto a blob storage. So before that, let's go to the blob storage. In here, I've already created a blob storage called job blob. What I'm going to do is just create a file named file.txt, and inside that, store whatever comes in the message. So this is how easy it is. I'm going to say blob, and the file name I'm going to give is job blob. That's the name of the blob, and I'm going to say file.txt. In the file.txt, and I'm going to say, okay, what is the so this takes two parameters. One is the blob path, which I've given. The other one is file access. So it's an enum. I'm going to say, because it's a write, so I'm going to say write. If I say read, it will become an input. In this case, it's a write. So I'm going to say write. I'm going to say text writer output. Writer. All right. By the way, I have to do it. The arrow. All right. Let's see what happens now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say in the output writer, right line, I'm going to say put the res record dot first name. I'm going to just put a space in here. And I'm gonna say record dot last name. Okay. So it is going to write that onto, supposedly if it works fine, on the job blob storage, it should create a file named file.txt, and whatever we pass into the message, it should be written on that file. Let's see how it works. Job should be running shortly. I can go into the job queue. You can see under the job blob, there is nothing here right now. On the job blob, I'm going to create a new message. Oh, the previous one, by the way, if I refresh, that's gone. I'm going to say did this. First name, I'm going to say John. Last name, I'm going to say is on it. Getting picked up. Let's go back here. See what happens. Okay, so I have the record with me here. All good. First name is John. Last name is Doe. Let's continue. All right. So no error. Let's go back to the storage and see the job log. And I'm going to refresh it. There should be a refresh button here. All right. So we have something in here. File.txt. Let's see what's in there. All right, John Doe. So that's an example of output binding. I'm going to refresh it so it's still there. So that's how you can integrate with Blob Azure service. But you can integrate with any service. You can integrate it with, I can go ahead and integrate with the SendGrid, and so that it sends the record in the email. I can say read from an EventGrid event and then publish that onto Azure Service Pass. Or any other service. I can very easily integrate with that. I can integrate with the databases like Cosmos DB and other things. Now, the other thing that I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you, is inputs. So let's see how the inputs work. So what I'm going to do for that, I'm going to read it from a table. So I'm going to, instead of putting that into the message, I'm going to create a table and put some records in the table, and we will see how the input works here, that this job will be able to, as an input, read the records from that table and write that into that file.txt. So let's go back to storage, and under the tables, I'm going to create a new table. I'm going to call it record, for example. And under the record, I'm going to create a few rows. So partition, I'm going to say called names. I'm not going to go into the detail of Azure tables. I'm assuming that you know already. So this is the key. I'm going to say 1. I'm going to add a property here. First name. Add another property. Last name. Put John. And last name Doe. Insert. I'm going to insert another record here. You can see it's now already remembering the properties. So names again. 2. I'm going to say John 1. Oh, I'm going to just put my name in here. Okay, save. So in that table, you can see there are two records here, John Doe and Tahirov. Okay, so let's go back and see how we can integrate with that. So I'm gonna say, stop it. Okay, so table, this attribute I'm going to use, sorry. And I'm going to give the name of the table, which is record, I think. Let's see, what was that? Record. Yeah, so record. And I'm going to, no, there are multiple ways. Sorry, string. This is the table name. Now, there are multiple ways you can access it. In this case, I'm going to say that read the whole row under this record. But what happens, because that table has the partition key and the row key as well. So there is another class called table, um, table t. Just give me a minute. I just need to get into the docs to see what that exactly is called. Okay, going back here. Okay, under the Windows, Microsoft or Windows or .storage.table, we have this table entity, which essentially has the partition key and other attributes. So I'm going to say is over here, I'm going to put, okay, now I can read one record or multiple records. In this case, I'm just going to read multiple records. So I'm going to use a variable record. I'll call it records, or I'm going to call it input records. Okay, so it will now read from the records. Okay, to summarize it again, was it because it's in the table, so it can have multiple entries. I'm just going to do a loop here for each, because that is ike variable. I'm going to say input records, or we see input records. Very simple example. I'm going to do this. And REC and REC. All right. So I'm going to remove the breakpoint now. Run it. In this case, my message doesn't matter. It's just a way of triggering so that it can start reading it from there. I'm going to put a dummy message, just put in something here. First name, something, doesn't matter. Last name, B. I'm going to remove this double quotes. Okay, done. The message is here. It should be picked up very soon. We'll see. Message is gone. Let's see what happens. So if we go to the job blobs, the file.txt, which was already there, let's open it. What's there? Okay, so you can see John Doe and Tahirov. So it basically went through the table, read all the records and stored them here. See how easily we integrated through the bindings. We read that from table storage and wrote that into the blob. One last concept that I'm going to show you, and then we'll call it a day, is, okay, so this is a fixed file name, right? But what if you want to change that file name based on the input? Because obviously you cannot have it in one file always. What if you want to have store the messages or different file names based on the input that came in? So very easy. It's a very powerful feature here that we're going to use. So to show you, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create another message called, let's call it files back. We are going to say that we will get the message in the queue as files back. So wherever we get the message in there, based on that, we are going to create the file. So I'm going to have call it public string file name get set, and I'm going to have, let's suppose the table name as well. We want to come in the table name in the message. All right. So what I'm going to say is that this is the file spec that's coming instead of the record in the queue, and let's call it file spec. Okay, and I'm going to say, I don't need this this line. I'm going to comment it out. What I'm going to say is that when the message comes in, in the message, whatever the file name is, just create a file name based on that, and whatever the table name is, read from that particular table. So I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say table name. So what's happening here? What's happening is whatever is coming in the trigger, it will automatically parse that, and this attributes will be replaced whatever is there in the file spec. I can go in here, I can say, okay, create the text, but do this. I'm going to say file name, whatever comes in the file name, create a file name based on that, and then rock and roll. So we're going to run it now. So this is my file spec. First file name and table name, just remember that. Go back in here, it's running again, go back to storage, go in the queue, create a message, call it, that was file name. I'm going to create demo file, okay, table name, let's see whatever table we created there, that was record. Okay, so again, table name record, it will look for a table called record and read all the records from there and write a file named demo file. Let's do this, let's see what happens. Messages here, getting processed. Okay, so the message should have been processed by now. Let's see. Okay, the message is gone, and let's see what's there in the console. So that's executed, no error in there. Job blob, let's refresh it. All right, we have demo file here. Let's open it up. Let's see what's in there. Okay, so you have first name and last name in here. All right, let's get back. I'm gonna close this. See how easy it is to integrate with different kind of services. Obviously, when you integrate with any service, you have to go back in the app config and provide the connectivity in here, either a connection string. This one is a very simple one. That's why I put the connection string directly here. But in actuality, you shouldn't be doing that. You should either be using managed service identity or using key vault to store these kind of credentials. But this is just a demo of the web jobs. Another thing to tell you here is that if you go to the NuGet packages, I'm using this 1.1.2 web jobs NuGet package, but right now this is very advanced. You can see 3.0 point something version there, which has this logic pretty much the same, but they additionally you have to in the program.cs you have to bind the services. So that makes the web job very lightweight. So whatever service you want, you just come in here and bind that service in here. Apart from that, it's pretty much the same. You can go back here there on this particular page, and I'll put this link in the video as well. You can see different type of examples of working with different bindings and triggers. So this particular example, for example, is talking about integrating with the event hub trigger. So an event comes onto the event hub, then it can trigger your job. You can see this queue, and I was seeing that this particular is about the SendGrid. So you see how if we go down here, it can send email to a particular email address based on the message. So that's it. That's about the triggers and bindings. Thank you very much.